This is Mr. Steve, the engineer of the Wax Museum, and I'd like to welcome you to the Wax Museum Companion, where we go into a little bit more depth on some of the tracks that we've chosen in this week's show. In the first set, in the first hour, we had I Hear Voices by the Hassles. Ron, can you tell me a little bit more about that track?
Yeah, the Hassles was Billy Joel's first recording band, and they signed to United Artists Records in early 1967, and released 2 records with that label and several singles, and I Hear Voices was actually the second 45. Even though Billy's singing it, he didn't actually write that song. But it's a pretty cool track, very psych, and definitely fits the Wax Museum vibe.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know, a lot of people don't really know much about the recorded music that Billy Joel did before he went solo. You know, he even had kind of like a heavy metal band at one point, didn't he?
Attila.
Yeah, Attila.
Yeah, that's right. They had that amazing album cover.
Yeah.
If you can find that, you should check that out.
That was on Epic Records.
Right on. Now, Mike, you chose "Slow Down" by the Rascals as one of your choices. What made you think of that one?
I like that version a lot. The one I got spun onto first was actually the Beatles from the Something New album, and then later on I heard Larry Williams, the original version of that. And then when I heard the Rascals, I like their version because it's kind of, well, no pun intended, it's slowed down a little bit, and it seems more heavier and it has more soul.
Yeah, no, Felix Cavalier really his voice on that, you know, he really brought that soul. I really dug that when I was listening to that track. And the next track that we chose, "Don't Put All Your Eggs in One Basket," Mellow Brick Road, is that right?
Yeah, they were actually from Geneva, New York. They were also on United Artists Records, and that's a cover of another local band called Otis and the All Night Workers. And Mellow Brick Road, it's RODE is how they spell that 45, but then they just changed their name to just The Road, and had a near hit with a version of the Zombies' "She's Not There" for Kama Sutra.
Yeah, it's really crazy how much good music came out of Geneva, New York. Well, you know, we're based in Syracuse here, so Geneva is our neighbor down the road, and a lot of great music came out of that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wilmer and the Dukes, lots of bands, absolutely.
Yeah, and the next track that was one that I chose, and that's it's an instrumental, "The Horse" by Cliff Nobles and Company, and I chose that one because I cannot get that one out of my head, and I have not been able to since I was a kid. They used to play that at like a lot of the sporting events around town when I was a kid. At Syracuse Chiefs games, you know, at all the SU games, and then later when I was in high school band, you know, pep band, we used to play a version of that. I remember learning that. You know, it's just got that great like line, you know, that's the kind of thing that you walk around the house, you know, singing to your cats and scaring them off the couch.
And it's one of those that you can't sit still to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a groovy beat to it, and you can just kind of move around to it.
You put that on at a party, and even today, people are like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, most of the 45s you see of that particular song are usually pretty beat. So to find a relatively clean copy like the one I have was highly unusual, and I'm glad to do it because obviously we try to take all our sources from vinyl and not from any digital forms, whether that be CDs or whatnot. And so you try to source the best vinyl you can for the show.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds really good. You must have an exceptionally clean copy of that. It's really cool, to source this music right from the vinyl records and not from the convenient digital forms that are out there a lot. You know, there's something different about that when the needle drops on that, and I don't know. That's something I really love about the music on our show.
I think early on with the Wax Museum, when we were on terrestrial radio, I think people figured it out pretty quickly that we were a vinyl-based show. But since moving to YouTube, I don't know if people kind of understand that this takes a lot of time to source all this vinyl. I spend basically my 2 days off from my full-time job just digitizing records, 45s, albums, you name it. And it's it's quite a long process to do a 3-hour show.
Yeah,
So.
it really is. You do, and I know how much time you take doing that because we're often texting each other while you're doing it. Talking about what you're doing, and you really work hard to source all this stuff and to get it. It's not just an easy grab off the shelf. We're not just pushing buttons to make things happen here. It's a process.
I don't swear often, but I swear a lot when I'm doing it. So.
Well, it also puts everything into perspective too. When you're going out record shopping all the time, and when you're buying records, they become work tools. So
Yeah, but it's I think the show is a nice means to the end. Of all the hard work that you've spent over the years shopping for these records and finding them and bringing them out. I don't know. Ron, you and I have been friends a long time, and seriously, all our friendship, this 30 plus years of it, I've known you to be out there hunting for records, and you always had the most interesting stuff. I mean, even when we were teenagers growing up, and it was the CD era, and vinyl was patently uncool. You still had all that stuff. I remember in high school, kids would be all like, "Oh yeah, man, Led Zeppelin's awesome, Pink Floyd's awesome," and Ron's like, "Yeah, man, I got the original albums of those," and they're like, "What, really?"
It was, because I kind of lost my thoughts on that, but it's more just I wanted to take what I enjoy about vinyl and then merge it with what I loved about radio as a kid, listening to the FM rock stations that were here locally, and I wanted to bring my own flavor to that while incorporating some of the 60s elements that obviously a TK99 wouldn't play, like garage bands, let's say, or soul music and things like that. But we're all pretty diverse here, and we have a lot of diversity of thought in how both Mike and John, and then myself, and now with Mr. Steve in the mix, how we all come to get the records together or get the music we like to play. But it does take a lot of time. It's you really got to dig. Sometimes you got to dig pretty hard to find things. Vinyl is all over. When my collection's pretty deep, so when someone says, "Hey, I want to find Young Holt Unlimited," if I'm lucky, I can go into the box that's marked Y and the 45's there, and if it is, it's a happy day for me. And if it's not, then I have to do some more digging in my various places where I keep my records to make sure I can play a vinyl copy. And then you want to make sure it's a good vinyl copy.
See, you're lucky. You've got your records alphabetized. Mine are all filed under R for records.
No, many of mine I did until I was really meticulous about it until I got to about 30 years old. And then it's just kind of unraveled since then. And I still have lots of things. I try to keep my stuff in somewhat of an order, but it's very much like someone will request, "Hey, I want to hear this garage song or this psych track," and I know I got the record, but then I'm going through 30 boxes and then maybe still not finding it, and it's like, man, this, not only do I want the song, I personally like to know where my copy is, because I spent more than $1 to buy it. So it's
trust me,
it can get frustrating.
I'm still impressed with your collection and how you maintain it, and and now how you share it with everybody. This show has.
It gives it a meaning.
Yeah, it brings that out. For me, as a friend and a bystander for 30 years, I'm looking through the looking glass and I'm like, wow. And I think it's just really cool that a lot more people get an opportunity to share in the collection that all of you in this show that have worked on it have amassed over the years. I don't know. I think that's the heart and soul of the show.
And it goes through phases too. There was obviously, when the Wax Museum first started, there was this idea, hey, I want to, like I said a few minutes ago, I wanted to merge my love for vinyl with my love of radio and put those two things together. And I could see that vinyl was coming back. It hadn't quite made it there yet in 08, 09, 2010.
You were ahead of the curve.
It started to build. I mean, I don't take any credit for it. This is a national thing.
No, but you were riding the wave, man.
Yeah, and certainly. And I could see where things were headed. And but the hobby has gone through so many different phases that a lot of the things that we like to collect, many of the vendors don't bring them out to the shows anymore, record shows being, or even record stores, because it's, there's other genres that make more money
Right.
that we don't per se touch on, say like death metal,
Right,
or
right.
gangster rap or stuff like that. And so a lot of what we're doing is getting lost again because it's just not out in circulation. So you really have to strike when you can get to a record show or a record store or a garage sale or flea market where there's going to be things that you'd like to source. I've always tried to source things for the show first. So if it's not something I'm going to play on the air, I'm not going to buy it.
Well, it's good though. Like you said, like because you are looking for the things that could get lost and ultimately disappear. There's music on here that you can't find digitally because they never re-released it, on CD or whatever, and then ultimately, to MP3s.
I can't speak for the commander, John Walsh. He's not here, but I could say what I can say is that John's focus has always been what we call album-oriented rock or album-oriented radio, AOR bands, and power pop bands, specifically probably about 1977 through 84, and that's really John's wheelhouse. So that's kind of what John brings to the table on the show. And then Mike is really big, and you're here, you can speak for yourself, but Mike's pretty big into like foreign language records and outre rock, I would say. Like you tend to bring in, like we were doing Lean Lovitch on this show.
Things
what's going to be shown. Yeah. And B-52s.
Yeah, B-52s. Yeah, like the rare and oddity stuff.
And some of that comes from your college radio experience, right, Mike?
Oh yeah, back in my OCC days.
Yeah, because that's a lot of that stuff was coming out new then. So
It was back in 1982, 83.
So you see like a lot of cross fertilization, because obviously I'm I like 90s alt rock too, so I bring some of those sounds in and just hope that people that listen to the Wax Museum will be like, yes, I love Smokey Robinson, but I will give Soundgarden a chance. Or people are like, oh, well, I prefer Ted Nugent, but I don't mind if you play some Gene Vincent too. I'll give that a shot. So you got to listen to this program with a very open mind. And if you don't, you're probably not going to like it, because we don't subscribe to just one sound here.
Yeah, it's true. There's it's funny because like that's how I know I listen to music. Like I can be all over the place. Like I don't fit into one niche. And like you said, like one minute I can be into listening to Soundgarden, and then the next minute I'm listening to oh God, some weird obscure 70s one-hit wonder like oh God,
something like a Nectar or something like that. Like recent act, you're really big with this Fits and the Tantrums.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Like I like Fits and the Tantrums though, because they have kind of a throwback sound.
Yeah.
Like their first album is very much kind of like a throwback to Motown and Stax Records kind of sound. Yeah, I really dig that. And I've seen them live a couple times too, and they're just a fantastic live band.
Yeah, when we can find modern-y things that fit with our aesthetic, we tend to play them on the show and like to expose groups, because Gripweeds being a great example.
Yeah, the Gripweeds, that who we feature on this week's show.
Yeah, and I try to play a lot of Gripweeds because I really believe in what they do and their music and their message, and there's just not enough shows that play what they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's some satellite shows. There's Little Steven's Underground Garage.
Right.
They've been featured on, but I feel like they're a band that needs to be exposed to more people, because I think if people like classic rock, or if they like late 60s rock, they would appreciate the Gripweeds.
Yeah, they can really get into what they're doing. But that's just part of the magical brew that is the Wax Museum. And
we've had a lot of influence. I mean, I brought in the whole John with the AOR thing.
Yeah.
But Mike too, like within like the first maybe 3-4 shows Mike was ever on back in 2010, I knew this group. I knew a couple of singles from Nuggets, which was a great comp that Lenny Kaye annotated for Elektra Records. Go out and get it if you haven't. If you don't own that comp, it will change your life. But anyways, Mike handed me a record, and it was an album called Forever Changes by Love, which I frankly never gave a thought. I hate to say it. It just was not in. I liked Little Red Book or 7 and 7 Is, and that was as much Love as I knew. And this was 2010. So Mike said, I want to play the Red Telephone. So I said, okay. I'm like, Love, that fits what we do. We put it on, and back then, I used to listen, because we pre-record the shows now. But back in the old days, the shows were live. So oftentimes I'd have the headphones on because I wanted to make sure the records weren't skipping, because we used to get a lot of guests in the studio.
Yeah, there was a lot of people in the studio.
And I needed to make sure the records weren't skipping or there was no audio noises or mistakes. So I constantly had my headphones on listening to what was going on while we were playing it live. And the Red Telephone came on, and it just became an instant Love fan, and I owe Mike everything for that because I love Arthur Lee now.
That's the magic.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's not, and you did that a bunch of times. You've brought, like, recently we Red Cross, another band that I didn't just sort of knew, but Mike kind of got me. What happened was I digitized Jimmy's Fantasy because I had it on I didn't have the vinyl.
Right.
But we played that maybe 2 months ago back on the show, if you archive the Wax Museum on YouTube. And I said, this song is effing great. So I work at a record store, so I ordered the album on vinyl and love it. The album's called Phase Shifter, by the way. And so I spun a track last week off that album. So
yeah, that's it, right, man. That's the special sauce right there.
And John does this too. There's this thing. I wish he was here to tell the listeners, but basically, maybe it's because him and I share the same birth date. But oftentimes, and Mike can back me up on this. Oftentimes on the show, I bring in. If we didn't bring in the same record by that artist, we'd bring in the same artist, but we never discussed it.
Yeah.
Like how many times did John pull
that's
up?
Happened a lot.
He'd pull up
Freakish amount of times.
and it would be an obscure record too. Like John would have All Together Now by Argent, and then I'd reach into my backpack and I'd have the same freaking album.
Now by Argent. Yeah, yeah. That has happened a bunch. I remember seeing that when you guys would just sit there and laugh about it. Yeah, I don't know. This show is very special. It's special to me, and I think that it's because of the mix that we have that makes it so special.
Yeah, my thought process is always I want to have enough songs that are garagey. I want to have some psych. I want to have some 70s rock, some modern things if we could fit it in. There's a lot of people that love classic, obscure soul. So I try to fill that void. Basically, it's got to be a little bit of a mix of what I believe in, with what the other guys want, and then also what the listeners want. And the majority of the listeners, I feel, just kind of go along the ride with us. They just enjoy the banter, or they enjoy the songs. But then there's some true believers that really, really want certain things.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you make them happy too.
Well, I really enjoy the requests that we get from some of the listeners. We get some pretty steady requests from people. Sunshine Pat out in Australia is constantly requesting stuff, and he's requesting interesting, good stuff. And I think it's just really cool that someone from Australia like that.
Australia.
Yeah, because
Mike's got listeners from the Philippines.
Yeah.
Indonesia. And we have listeners all over the U.S. Even though we're based out of Syracuse, New York.
Yeah.
We got people that tune in from Illinois,
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio. We've got listeners in California, Arizona.
Salve.
Yeah, Salve. Exactly, Salve. And it's you really you just want to be thankful for what you have, and we're just continuing to try and grow on this new medium, and it's been an interesting process. I still don't quite understand YouTube, but hopefully it's going to make more sense as time goes on.
Yeah, and if you have a request on something you'd like to hear on the Wax Museum, send us an email at info@thewaxmuseumwithronniedark.com, and we will try to, make it happen for you. I mean, we love to know what people want to hear, because this show is all about sharing the music, and your request basically is sharing your music with us. So maybe we can make that happen.
And if you like this addendum, we might start doing this a little more often as an addendum to the week's Wax Museum. Yep. And don't forget, please like and subscribe to the channel if you're just hearing this audio podcast without hearing the actual program. Like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, you can also check out Mike's show, which is on from 10 to 11.
Yeah, the Night Owl Lounge.
And we're trying to add more. The whole thing with the Wax Museum Network is we want to add more content, and that means more disc jockeys and people, like-minded people like ours. Yeah. So you can also email us about that. If you're a disc jockey or you want to submit a show idea of your own, you're free to do that. We're looking to greatly expand into 2027.
Yeah, we would love to have more voices and shows on. We're going to be having other different shows on and other different things like this little addendum podcast here. This has been fun. I've enjoyed this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Steve.
All right. Well, hey, if you haven't listened to this week's Wax Museum show, go to YouTube and look it up, the Wax Museum Network. And you can find us there. We broadcast the show. We have a live premiere every Sunday night from 7 to 10 p.m. There's a live chat in YouTube, which is usually pretty lively and fun, and we have a good time in there. And we also have live chats on our Facebook page, our Facebook web group. So thank you for listening, and we will talk to you later.
Remember, if you don't listen, Michael will come to your house and blow your house down.
Charge!
Your house down!